scholars. Today we're going to read the book, Fancy Nancy, the Poison Ivy Expert. We are going to meet our friend Fancy Nancy. Her name's Nancy and she is very fancy. And she thinks she's a poison ivy expert. Now some of you might be thinking, what's poison ivy? Scholars, poison ivy is a bush that lives usually in the woods. You'll see it when you're going on nature walks or going to the park. That's where they usually are. Poison ivy is a big bush, and if you touch it or brush up on it, it gives you a rash. You get really itchy and red bumps on your skin, and it's really not comfortable. The only way that it can get better is if you take medicine for it. That's what poison ivy is. And we're going to learn and read about what happens to Fancy Nancy and poison ivy. Remember, poison ivy is a bush that is outside. All right, let's go ahead and read our book, Fancy Nancy. And remember, it's our job to figure out how she might be feeling throughout the story. Look, I am picking a bouquet of wild flowers. Bouquet is a fancy word for a bunch of flowers. Watch out for poison ivy. Mom keeps warning me. I am, I say. I know what poison ivy looks like. I know the rhyme. Leaves of 3, let it be. Why, I'm practically a poison ivy expert. So that rhyme just told us that if you see a bush with leaves of 3 on the stems, let it be. That might be poison ivy. That's a good thing to remember when you're playing outside, to look for bushes that have leaves of 3. Let them be. You don't want poison ivy. The next day, I bring the bouquet to school. Bree brings cupcakes. Robert brings purple punch. We conceal everything. Conceal is a fancy word for hide. We are having a surprise party for Miss Glass. It is her birthday. By lunchtime, I am so excited about the surprise that I get all itchy. My arms itch, my nose itches, every inch of me itches. Scholars! Do you think she's itching because she's excited? Or do you think Nancy ran into a bush when she was outside? What do you think? Ooh, I don't know. Those are some good answers. Let's read and find out. Nancy, you have red bumps on your face, Bree says. I do? Yes, I do. Uh-oh. That's not looking like excitement. That's kind of looking like a poison ivy rash, scholars. Miss Glass calls home. Dad picks me up and we go to the doctor. Can you guess what is wrong? Yep, I have poison ivy. It is all my fault. I'm not a poison ivy expert after all. And what if my bouquet had poison ivy in it? Scholars, how do you think Nancy is feeling right now? She was supposed to have a party for her teacher, Miss Glass, and she had to go home early because she has poison ivy. How is Fancy Nancy feeling? Yeah, I think she's feeling a little sad and bummed too. She can't go to the party and now she's all itchy, full of red bumps because she ran into poison ivy. And now she's wondering if she had poison ivy in the bouquet of flowers that she picked for her teacher. Uh-oh. Dad lets me call Miss Glass. There is no poison ivy, she tells me. Just beautiful flowers. Thank you, Nancy. She hopes I am better soon. Well, that's good, scholars. Later, Bree stops by. I am too itchy for company, so she sends stuff over in our mail basket. A note from Miss Glass says, everyone is starting a journal. You can write yours at home. Bree's note says, Thursday is pajama day. Will you be back? No, I won't be back Thursday. I am miserable. That's even worse than unhappy and also much fancier. So we just found out that Nancy is feeling miserable. She is not happy at all. And she sure doesn't look happy in those pictures either. All night I itch and itch. Poor Nancy. The next morning I am exhausted. This is fancy for very, very tired. Mom shows me a little jar. It is from the lady next door. Mrs. Devine says to put this cream on your bumps, Mom tells me. It is a home remedy. A remedy is a fancy word for medicine. So Miss Devine, their neighbor, brings Nancy over some ointment to put on her bumps. I wonder if it'll make her feel better. She's still not looking too happy, though. She sure does look miserable. Ooh la la! I don't itch. What is this magic cream? Look she looks so excited now that she's not itching. Well, that's good. Mrs. Devine says it has jewelweed in it. Jewelweed grows in her garden. I like the name. Weeds are not fancy, but jewelweed sure sounds fancy. Mom brings home a library book. I learn about poison ivy. Then I start my journal. I put in many fascinating facts. Fascinating is fancy for interesting. And this is what Nancy writes. In the fall, poison ivy turns red. It looks very beautiful. But don't let that fool you. Stay away. So this is what poison ivy looks like in the summer. This is what poison ivy looks like in the fall. She's still writing. Dogs are lucky. If they touch poison ivy, nothing happens to them. And that's her dog, Frenchie. If you touch a person with poison ivy, you will not catch it. Just don't touch clothes that still have poison ivy on them. Also, Nancy learned that dogs can't get poison ivy. She also learned that if you touch or hug someone that has poison ivy, you won't catch it. But if your clothes might have touched poison ivy and you touch those clothes, you might get it. By Sunday, I am really a poison ivy expert. Tomorrow I go back to school. Yippee! In the afternoon, I go to Bree's house. Fancy Nancy looks so happy now. She doesn't have bumps on her. She's got a smile on her face. Now she gets to play with her friends and go back to school. Ooh la la! There's a surprise party for me. There are cookies and punch. And we all dance to an old rock and roll song. Guess what it's called? Poison Ivy. All right, scholars. I hope you enjoyed something and learned something about poison ivy. Now think about what you learned because I want you to share it with me in the slide below. What did you learn about poison ivy? Also, how do you think Fancy Nancy felt throughout the story and how did her emotions change? Think about those answers and answer them when you're done thinking. Bye, friends.